this build will make you immune to chaos damage and help you to do tons of damage. You will melt all those pinnacle bosses and clear the maps really fast. Don't forget to subscribe. Hello guys, my name is Will and welcome to one more Path of Exile 2 video. In this one we have Invoker build guide. I call it Icy Thunder Invoker and you guys can check on Mobalytics. I will release the build on Mobalytics once I release this video as well, so you guys can check it there after watching this video. It's a compliment. If there's something you don't understand here, you can check that's white or just comment below and I'll try to help you. Alright, so without taking longer, let's have a look at the passive tree. I'm gonna explain everything, gear and everything that you need to progress to this build and do tons of damage and being immune to chaos damage. So let's start with the passive tree. I'll be explaining some things about the gear and the skills as well. So the Ascendancy, it's pretty easy to do. We have these ones here with shock, we have I am the Thunder, the Unbound Avatar, this one you only need to use on bosses basically, I am the Blizzard and Lead Me Through Grace. This one is very important, it's gonna give you a lot of spirit based on your evasion rating on your body armor. Alright, so it's very important that you have a lot of evasion rating on your gear, okay? Not just here, check the value above this one. So I have 2473. Of course, if you are just starting this build, will be hard to get there because this gear is expensive, but you can start doing this build. I started this build with gear that was almost one divine, like almost off the gear. At the moment, probably this chest is like 1 to 2, 3 divines, so you can start it as a budget, but then, of course, if you want to increase your damage, your evasion and everything, of course, you need to spend more or craft better gear, alright? But the chest is one of the most important things because it's gonna give you a lot of evasion, of spirit. I have at the moment 264 and I'm not even using all of it. I have more 9 if I wanted to use something else. Then we progress to this side. Here we have this one just to increase with our freeze build-up and extra cold damage. We have some invasion rating, some critical hit. As you guys can see, this build has a lot of critical hit and critical damage bonus nodes. So we have these ones here, and we have these ones here, okay? These nodes is just for critical damage, and these ones as well. We have some more freeze build-up on this side and cold damage. Then we are using Resonance, so this one will convert our frenzy charges to endurance charges because we are using combat frenzy. Combat frenzy will generate a frenzy charge whenever we freeze, electrocute or pin an enemy. In this case we're gonna freeze. So since we are using this node resonance, every time we get power charges will be converted to frenzy charges. So every time we freeze an enemy we get power charges. So for this one we have these ones here which will increase our power charges and help with our critical damage bonus as well. So your aim here is to have as much critical hit chance as you can. And then we have a lot of critical hit and critical damage nodes, which are these ones, these ones, these ones, and these ones here on the bottom. Then we have these ones, okay, so this one is pretty good as well. The Spectral Ward will increase your maximum energy shield per 12 invasion rating on your equipped body armor. So because of this, it's also important to have your good chest with a lot of invasion. We have some attack damage here on this one, so since we are on low life, we are getting 50% and not 30%. Then we have some freeze build-up nodes, and if you are having a hard time to freeze your enemies, you can replace some of these. Don't aim for the critical hit chance at the beginning, if you are not freezing them that quick yet. So this one will help with the freeze build-up, and then you can get these ones that will help with the freeze build-up as well. Alright, when you have enough cold damage and you can freeze your enemies pretty quick, you should be fine and you don't need these nodes anymore. Then we have the Chaos Inoculation and Internal Loot. Since we don't have life, it's good to recover energy shield with our flasks. And again, it's also important, this is why it's important to have a lot of evasion rating. We need as much as energy shield we can at the moment. So I have 2400, I want to increase this. Eventually I want to go for these nodes probably to get some more evasion or energy shields as well. It gives me evasion rating and a maximum energy shield. But if I get a better head, so that's why it's important to have a head with energy shield only to increase our energy shield, and a chest we want to focus on invasion rating. Okay, this is one of the two priorities we want to aim on our gear to be able to do this build and be able to be immune to chaos damage. Then these ones are the power charges, and these ones here are very important. This one increase the critical hit chance against enemies on full life and increase damage with it against enemies that are on full life. So whenever we activate shock on enemies and our Herald of Thunder is activated, I have this node here that will increase 100% more critical hit chance against enemies that are on full life. So every time one of these thunders hit one of our enemies, they will take tons of damage. And since we are using this freeze build up and extra cold damage, they'll be freezed by the Herald of Thunder and will activate that snowball effect that everyone likes to watch. Alright, but I'll talk more detailed about that while I'm talking about the skill gems. Then we have some dexterity, so we have more evasion rating here, more dexterity. We need a lot of dexterity as soon as you can get these hands, Hand of the Wisdom. You don't need them right now. You can start with different hands and prioritize some stats. Eventually, as you can get these ones, your damage and speed will increase a lot, and that's why you guys can see on my passive tree I only have a lot of nodes with intellect and dexterity. At the moment I have 227 dexterity and 198 intelligence, and then I don't have any nodes with strength because I don't need more. I have 55, and according with my support gems I don't need more strength to use all the support gems I need. I think I need at least 35 to use this, like this one, and that's it basically. Then we have some more attack speed on these ones. This one increase my attack speed per 15 dexterity, and these ones that will increase our melee range and melee attack speed. Alright, so that's basically it. This is my build at the moment. Eventually I will get these ones, so I'm 92, I have more 8 points to get. So probably I'll be getting some invasion, or I'll just spend on the critical hit chance and critical hit damage. So will really depend how much I can get more from the gear I get. Alright, about the passive tree, that's all you guys need to know. Remember, if you are just starting this build and you don't have these Hands of the Wisdom, then focus on dexterity, because you will be getting this node here, increase dexterity, and these ones work better with dexterity. But as soon as you get these hands, then your intelligence will increase your lightning damage to attacks per 10 intelligence, and we have a lot. And that's why I have so much intelligence. It helps me with mana as well. Every intelligence point will give me plus 2 mana, so that's why I have 746. I don't have any mana stats on my, I have 22 here, but yeah, I don't have much mana stats on my gear. So let's talk about the skill gems, and in my build I use the same build for clearing all the maps, and then I use just a different skill to kill pinnacle bosses. Only pinnacle bosses, because for every other boss, the map bosses, I can use the same build, it works perfectly and I can kill them very easily. Again, if you are just starting this build, I don't recommend you to use Tempest Flurry, use Ice Strike, it's here. Use Ice Strikes, especially against pinnacle bosses. This one does more damage, and because we have some nodes with extra cold damage. But the most important thing, this one is much easier to build freeze on your enemies. So especially on pinnacle bosses, which will be harder to get those power charges, with Ice Strike will be easier to freeze the enemy, get some power charges, and then increase even more your damage when you're fighting a pinnacle boss. While doing maps, I find that Tempest Flurry, it's much easier to use. You can just spam it all the way, keep blinking and spamming Tempest Flurry, and the melee strike rage it's 8. If you add quality, will be 12 melee strike rage. With this one, we don't have so much rage to attacks. And with Tempest Flurry, we also have this third and fourth strike that will hit the enemies, as you guys can see here. Performs the final strike that calls down a powerful shocking bolt, and this will activate the Herald of Thunder. Alright, so let's talk about the skill gems more detailed. So we have Unbound Avatar. On this one we have 1+1 level to support skills, fire skills and lightning skills. We have this one because this Unbound Avatar counts as every elemental type, so using this one will increase one more level to Unbound Avatar, and this way you can do more damage with this. We have more skill effect duration to increase the duration of our unbound avatar skill. This one you only need to use against map bosses or pinnacle bosses. Besides that, you don't really need it. Then I'm using Blink. Blink I only use on maps while I'm clearing maps. It's much faster to use to clear maps with this skill. You can just blink all the way and clear it much faster. We have Ingenuity, which increases our cooldown recovery rate, so we can use Blink much more often. Then I'm using Tempest Flurry, but I'm gonna talk about both Tempest Flurry and Ice Strike. If you want to use Tempest Flurry, I don't recommend it if you are just starting this build, I recommend Ice Strike, but if you want to use Tempest Flurry, we have as support gems, we have 25% more attack speed, martial tempo, we have concentrated effect to increase our area damage, we have more physical damage, we have less cost because this skill is very fast and will melt down your mana, and we have more weapon elemental damage. As base DPS I have 140k, but if I switch to Ice Strike, and I'm gonna tell you which skills I'm using on Ice Strike, so will be basically almost the same thing. So on this one, guys, I have 177, so it's more 37k damage. Overall, Ice Strike will do more damage, but I already have a lot of damage, and I think Tempest Flurry it's easier and faster to clear maps, but you can just use Ice Strike if it makes it easier for you. So on Ice Strike I have martial tempo as well, I have concentrated effect, I have rage, so with this one most of the times I don't even hit the enemies, so I'm not getting any rage from it, so that's why I don't use it on Tempest Flurry. Most of the times I kill them with just the lightnings coming from the sky. On this one it's more melee, so you will be hitting the enemies because every time you use it, your character will do a quick jump to the enemies, and this way you will generate rage. So every time you get rage, you get 1% more attack damage up to 30, which will increase a lot the damage of this, and that's why this skill it's overall better to fight pinnacle bosses. Then we have maximum physical damage and weapon elemental damage, and this one it's not so fast casting like Tempest Flurry, and because of that we don't spend so much mana. On Tempest Bell, we want to use this every time we are fighting bosses, pinnacle bosses, or if you are just starting this build and you don't have enough damage, you can use this skill to kill the rares as well. So on Tempest Belt we have melee physical damage, heavy swing, we have Soul Thief, because when we use Tempest Belt on pinnacle bosses and we activate the elemental evocation, we're gonna activate this and it's gonna spend a lot of mana, alright? So because of this we have Soul Thief, so we can get some mana back from all the mana we're gonna use with this skill. Then we have Leverage that will increase our critical HS against immobilized enemies, so when we freeze them and we use Tempest Belt will be 50% increased critical chance. And Close Combat, which will deal 25% more attack damage. So if you want to make it easier for you, you only need to change one skill when you're fighting a pinnacle boss. So when you're fighting a pinnacle boss, you want to remove Blink, we don't want this anymore, and we want to use Elemental Vocation. So we place our Tempest Belt, and then we activate our Unbound Avatar, we use Elemental Vocation, and Eye of the Winter. We'll fire several Eye of the Winter, which will do cold damage and increase our build up to freeze the enemy, okay? With this one, we have this one Impetus to increase our energy, we have this one that will fire an additional projectile, and Deceleration to have less projectile speed, alright? Then we have Combat Frenzy, this is the one I talked about to generate frenzy charges. On this one we want to use the Profusion to grant we have a 50% chance to grant an additional charge. We have this one Clarity just to increase our mana generation, and this one to generate 1% of our life. If you don't have enough spirit yet to this build, one of the ways to use all of these skills is to not use these ones here, alright? These gems will reserve amount of spirit if you are using them. So this one will reserve 10 spirit, this one will reserve 20 spirit. So if you don't have enough spirit for this build, don't use these support gems because This way you will have more 30 spirit to use on a different skill. This one is 30, this one is 30, this one is 30, and these skills are much more important than having mana regeneration or life per second. For example, I don't even need this one because I don't have life. Then we have our shard staff, so this one is the one that will help a lot as to activate both heralds, okay? So this one will apply exposure, and basically what exposure does is decrease the resistances of the enemies, so this way they will be more exposed to our cold and lightning damage. We have as well lightning exposure, one shocking enemy. We have shocking hits that will have 50% chance to also shock enemies in 2.5 meters. So if this happens, they will have our chance to be hit with thunder from Herald of Thunder. And we have colder exposure when we critical hit enemy with cold damage. And then finally we have overcharge, which will increase the magnitude of shocks, but will give less shock duration. This one you can leave for later, okay, this is not a priority, get these ones first. For Ice Strike, the same thing, you can leave the rage for later and use it when you have a perfect tool to get the 5 slots. Then we have the Wind Dancer. This one is just for defense, it's really good, it will increase your evasion rating, and every time you are hit by a melee attack will knock back the enemies, okay? So it's very helpful to increase your evasion, and also when they manage to hit you, they'll be knocked back, and this way you can recover your HP or position yourself in a better and safer place. Then we have 4 life recover on kill while a support skill is active. Again, I'm using this, but if you are already using Chaos Inoculation, you don't need this. Cannibalism and Vitality only if you still have life. If you activate the node of Chaos Inoculation, you can remove these ones and use a different thing. Also because this one reserves 15 spirit and this one reserves 20 spirit, but I don't really need any spirit with this build. So the next one we have Maim, so every time this is activated, we will maim the enemies. So maim is basically will slower and reduce the invasion rating of the enemies around us. Then we have Grim Fist. Grim Fist will give us some remnants, a 50% chance to spawn a remnant that will give us energy shield. So each one will give 152 at a moment. If you increase your intellect, it means you can increase the level of the buff, and the highest the level, the highest the amount of energy shields you are getting. Remember that with Grim Fist it's much better to clear maps, because you can get shield over your shield. So my maximum shield is 2405, but with Grim Fist it can go up to 5000, 7000, it doesn't matter, you can grab as many remnants as you can. And finally we have the champions of this build. We have Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder. Herald of Ice will, every time you freeze and shatter an enemy, will activate Herald of Ice and basically will create an explosion that will be converted to cold damage. On this one we have Area of Effect, we have Lightning Infusion, and now this is the interesting thing about this build. So basically I'm gonna explain why I have these nodes. So I have this Lightning Infusion that will increase the lightning damage of this skill, we have 100% more chance to shock, and then we have this one that penetrates 30% cold resistance, and this one that will give me 35% of damage of lightning damage for 3 seconds on killing a shocked enemy. So every time we freeze the enemy and we shatter it, we'll create an explosion. And since we are using these nodes, that explosion, some of that damage will be converted to lightning damage, okay? So the more lightning damage you do to an enemy, the highest the chance to shock it, okay? And we also have this one that will increase 100% more chance to shock. So basically, when this happens, when the Herald of Ice is activated, we'll shock the enemies close to that one and activate the Herald of Thunder, because every time you kill a shocked enemy with attack damage, will activate this Herald of Thunder and will cause a subsequent attack hit to release lightning bolts. Alright, so this is how Herald of Ice works. So if you are using Ice Strike, basically you're gonna freeze the enemy, the Herald of Ice will activate and will create this snowball effect. Then I have Innervate, because this one will shatter and basically will kill enemies that are shocked, and with this one you will be getting this buff of 35% more damage as lightning after killing a shocked enemy. On Arrow of Thunder, we have the opposite, okay? So we have Cold Infusion, giving us more extra cold damage, we have more freeze build-up, we have this one that will deal more attack damage to enemies further than 7 meters from you, we have this one that will increase 1% more critical HS against enemies that are on full life, and we have Ice Bite that will give 35% of damage as cold damage on freezing enemy. So, the 4 priority ones you want will be these 3 on Herald of Ice, and then you can use Innervite or Cold Penetration. On Herald of Thunder you want these 4 first, and this one, leave for later, is not a priority. So, the Herald of Thunder, the way it works, since we have extra cold damage and freeze build-up, and we have this one, critical chance, as you guys seen on this passive node, every time we hit the enemy with full life, we'll have a 50% more in critical chance and increased damage. So, when Herald of Thunder is activated, and usually it's gonna do damage to enemies that are full HP, you will have more critical chance, and with that node, we'll have even more critical chance and more damage. So basically this skill will almost one-shot them, but before they being one-shotted, they'll be freezed, okay? Because we have a lot of cold damage, and since we're gonna do probably a critical hit, it's gonna be even more damage, and we have freeze build-up. So, and we also have long shot that will do more damage to the enemies that are far away from you. And since we have these skills, the Herald of Thunder will be activated, the enemies will be hit with one of these thunders, and these thunders will freeze and shatter the enemies. When they shatter, activate the Herald of Ice, will do damage, will shock them, and then Herald of Thunder is activated again. So basically it's a snowball effect that you use Ice Strike, you freeze them, Herald of Ice is activated, Herald of Ice activates Herald of Thunder, and Herald of Thunder activates Herald of Ice, and it's a snowball effect. If you're using Tempest Flurry, will work kinda the same way, but in the opposite way. So instead of starting with Herald of Ice, you're gonna use Tempest Flurry, you're gonna shock your enemies, you activate Herald of Thunder, and the Herald of Thunder will activate Herald of Ice, and after that will work the same way as you are using Ice Strike. But as I said, if you don't want to touch much on your build, and you don't want to swap much skills, you can just use Ice Strike all the way and don't use Tempest Flurry. The only thing you need to swap will be Blink, alright? Blink, it's the only skill that you need when you're doing when you clean your maps. When you're not clearing your maps and you are doing Pinnacle bosses and Pinnacle bosses only, you want to use Elemental Evocation, alright? This one will increase your damage by a lot, use it with Tempest Belt and your damage will be insane. I just killed today the last level of Breach, okay? So the last one with this tire already, and the damage was not so big as before, so I did not one-shot them, but it was pretty quick to kill that guy even on that level, because if you already have these 8 points, you guys can see the difficulty will be increased by 4 plus all of this stuff, but it will be increased by 4 on that boss, so it will be much harder. This build works for every content. For clearing maps is perfect, to do bosses is perfect. If you do that swap, it's the best thing you can do, and since we are not doing Pinnacle bosses all the time, you can just clear maps, do a fast clear with Blink, and every time you are doing a Pinnacle boss, just do that quick swap, and that's it. And if you want to make it easier, just use Ice Strike, don't use Tempest Flurry. But if you want to use Tempest Flurry, I think will be faster to clear maps and easier, because you just need to spam it. But if you want, just use Ice Strike, because it makes it everything easier. So I already talked about this. Another thing I want to mention, if you want, you can do another swap or use a different thing. If you are fighting a Pinnacle boss, we don't need Grim Fist anymore, so you can use Ghost Dance, alright? You can replace Grim Fist by Ghost Dance. This one, every time they hit you, you're gonna recover any shield based on your evasion, which will be a lot and will help to survive on bosses. But since I just killed them, almost one-shot them, I don't feel I need to do that swap. It's working fine. If I need, I'll do some improvements. So now let's talk about the gear, which is very important as well. The Quarterstaff, it's one of the most important things in your build. If you want to increase your damage, you want to improve your Quarterstaff. On this one, you really want to have as much physical damage as you can get and increase elemental damage with attacks as well. I think this adds lightning damage, helps a lot to shock your enemies, but if you find one with cold damage, it's good as well. Then you want to get some critical damage bonus, or critically chance, or gain mana per enemy killed, will be very good, because every time you're clearing a map, if you get some mana per enemy killed, you're not gonna have any issues with mana. Then, when you get these hands, the Hands of the Wisdom, you really want to aim for gear with attributes, because the more intelligence and dexterity you have, the more damage or attack speed you will have as well. So I have intelligence here, and then on my rings I don't need chaos resistance, and I don't have life. So there's a lot of stuff I don't need. I don't need life regeneration, I don't need life, I don't need life per enemy killed, I don't need chaos resistance, so I can prioritize other stats. So as you guys can see, on the rings you really want to get some cold damage and lightning damage, because you are doing both damage with the heralds or with these skills. So you have cold and lightning damage, rarity, only go for rarity when you are really on the end game. Until then, focus on your resistances and other important stats, but especially your resistance. At the moment I have 100, it's kept at 76, but I have 192 and 90, okay? For the runes, you really want to aim for the iron ones, it's the best and only ones for your quartet stuff. For the chests, you want to get as much evasion as you want, so your priority stats will be evasion rating and increased evasion rating, and then just complement with some resistances or attributes that you can get. On your helmet, you want to get as much energy shield as you can. This will be the best piece of gear to get energy shield. On this one, I forgot to say, you want iron runes as well, because these runes will be based on your evasion, so the more evasion you have, the more bonus from here. On this one, if you're happy with your shield, you can go with runes with resistances. If you want more shield, you can use an iron rune. So on this one, you really want to get as much energy shield as you can. You can go for rarity on the late game, and get some resistances or attributes is very good as well. So as you guys can see, on this ring I have a lot of cold damage and lightning damage. I'm not so happy about this 7 mana per enemy killed. If it was around 20 would be much better. On your amulet you don't need any spirit on this build, but on your amulet you really want to get some more maximum energy shield, so this is the right piece of gear to get that shield. We have also attributes, we have some more elemental resistances and level to all melee skills, which are all good for my build. Then we have the Vulgar Methodus. This one is very cheap to make and increase your critical chance. When you're happy with your amulet and you think you can't get much better than this, you can instill it with Storm Charged, alright? This one will increase your critical chance by 20 and elemental damage if you dealt a critical hit recently, so this one will increase your damage a lot, but it's much more expensive than the other one we are using. Then we have the ring is about the same thing. We have cold damage, lightning damage, resistances, rarity, and mana per enemy killed. So on our ends we have Hand of the Wisdom. If you guys want until get these ones are the ones I was using before, with cold and lightning damage and some more resistances. Then if you are able to afford for these ones will be much better, and after getting these ones start aiming to get more dexterity and intelligence. Then for our boots we want to get 35 increased movement speed. It's very important to help with your clear mapping and everything, it makes it way faster. Even for dodging skills from bosses it makes it easier. We want some evasion and energy shield. Rarity if you are on the late end game, if not try to aim for some attributes and especially resistances, because they are very important for us. This belt, go for one. I have already sold mine, I don't have it anymore, but go for one that complements your resistances until you can afford for this Ingenuity belt. This one, I think it's around 7 divine orbs at the moment, but you don't really need it at the start. Of course, once you get this belt, it's really good, will be a massive boost for every build, not just this one, but most of the builds are using this belt. And then I'm using Melting Maelstrom. Again, if you don't have Chaos Inoculation yet, this is a bit expensive and will not be useful for you, because this one will deal current mana as chaos damage. Since I'm immune to chaos damage, I can only benefit from this, so I don't have any downside by using this. Only it's gonna give my mana instantaneously, which is pretty good, and also do 50% of the mana spent as chaos damage around my enemies, so will increase my damage by a little bit. Last thing to talk about is the charm. So if it really depends if your evasion is okay. I have 86 at the moment, so I'm okay with my evasion. If you're low evasion, go for the one that helps with your stun. If you are struggling with freezes, then this one it's the best you can get. But if you are happy with your evasion and you are not worried about getting freezed, you can use Golden Charm that will increase 20% rarity when killing rare or unique enemies. Alright, so I think this is basically everything I can talk about this build. You guys can check on Mobalytics, so I'm gonna post these builds as soon as I post this video. The name of the build will be Icy Thunder Invoker Build Guide by Wilson Exile. You guys can check there. I'm gonna leave the link below on the description as well, so you guys can have a look. And I'm gonna leave you guys with some gameplay while I was doing Breach, the Breach boss with the highest level, clearing maps, so you guys can have an idea how this build works and how good it is to clear everything and doing damage as well. So if you guys have any question, just comment below, I'll be happy to help you and answer all your questions. If you have any tips to my build, I'm appreciated as well. With this, I can only ask you guys to leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you guys want to follow more content about Path of Exile 2 and more build guides. Thank you so much for watching this video and see you next time.
Dreamer provides.
We that dreamed, we in nightmare, we that are one. She of thought and motion,
cannot.